Oh boy. Here we go with another one that's pretty dumb as fuck, honestly. Oh god. Alright, so here's my movie review of Redneck Zombies, which came out in 1987. I actually watched this on voodoo.com. Simply put, straight to the point, this movie was dumb. Really fucking dumb. I know there'll be people who might find me to be soft or like a social justice warrior for my upcoming points, but this movie was bad. Just so unfunny and cringe. The movie was low budget, and so I didn't expect much from the start, like as if the story could have just been a funny, silly experience. It would have been good. I didn't expect much for a good story or anything. Yet, this film still let me down somehow. I knew nothing about it going into it. I'd watched a trailer in the past and had actually wanted to watch this movie because I thought it would have, or should have, been B-movie sludge. You know, I thought it was going to be funny, honestly. I was prepared for hilarious bad, really, not hilarious, but hilarious bad scenes and painfully bad acting, like something from the Resident Evil 1 PlayStation version. Instead, this movie was all of that, except without any comedy. I can tell that the movie was not intended to age well, if ever. I have no idea if the writers ever even thought that far, as the movie seems to be the only thing that the writers ever made. One of them went by the name Zoo Feet. Yeah, seriously. Strange and smelly sounding. I believe that the dude must have been an ancient furry. That wouldn't bother me though, since I don't care what anyone does in their spare time. What they identify as, their sexuality, religion, or whatever. It doesn't make any difference to me. The movie starts with a look into a mental ward. That doesn't actually look creepy on the inside, actually, nor like a mental facility. It honestly seems like they were in the office of someone they knew. The wacky camera angles were supposed to make it seem spooky and maybe like nauseous, sick, or whatever. A random dude in a chair is hanging out in the hallway, smoking a doob or a cigarette, I can't really tell. Two doctors come down, make a comment about the dude's diagnoses, which was schizophrenic melanoma or malignant edema, which doesn't make any sense, by the way. Edema is extra water carried in the body, in a nutshell. The schizophrenia has nothing to do with that. I don't know how you could have schizophrenic edema. That doesn't make any sense. I actually laughed, though, because it was stupid. Like, that doesn't make sense, but it made me laugh. The two doctors then decided to play golf, leaving from the hallway, laughing. One said they'd rather play at the grounds they were going to because their place doesn't allow Jews. Yikes. This movie came out in 1987, by the way. Not that long ago, and definitely a part of modern times akin to now. That joke would not be easily laughed at by anyone I would have known, even in their early 20s. Oh, I forgot to say, though, too, that the movie starts with a preface talking about how the army had radioactive barrels, one went missing, and there was nothing to worry about. And then another person said that there was, basically, a blatant ripoff of what's the Return of the Living Dead story. I wasn't too thrilled that they stole such an idea from a really popular movie. I don't know why that already put me in a bad mood. Probably because I had recently watched the first of the two Return of the Dead movies. Not long before. Earlier that week, actually. I suppose it could have seemed charming. Oops. But the plot was absolutely plagiarized by the writers. It wasn't very cheeky at all, And there's a difference, if they had made it satirical and not, well, just stole it, I would have liked it, There's a difference between satire and plagiarism. So anyway, after the doctors walk away, there was a woman in the cell close by, obviously in pain mentally. Then the movie starts in what's a memory about what led to the opener. The memory/plot starts with one lone army dude driving a vehicle with the nuclear barrel. You think about this, how the fuck does she know that? Whatever. Anyway, he's totally not official at all, with a demeanor more like a pothead. He starts sifting through the radio stations, stops at a religious one, but even that one was messed up, where the preacher starts saying to kill all the niggers and kikes. The army dude was shocked and changed the station, justifiably. He keeps driving in this country road surrounded by corn for some reason and is distracted. Eventually, he starts petting a dog with sunglasses that was just hanging out in the car, not that you would see it in the shots far away from the freaking vehicle. It doesn't make any sense. So, he crashes the car, and the evil, toxic barrel rolls into a ditch. When he gets it, he's greeted with a gun to the face by the stereotypically fat, messy, overalled redneck hick. The army guy tries to reason with the fat redneck, but runs away before the fat one shoots his gun. This apparently sprayed and shot the water still, or whatever it's called, that the opposing rednecks used to make moonshine. The fat redneck was now at risk of being shot and bargains with the opposing rednecks to let him go for the barrel. They do, and the fat one runs away. And yes, I know, it's like you have a fat redneck and then there's more rednecks and the rednecks are fighting. Yeah. That's about as deep as it goes, though. And this is where the movie really started to turn sour for me, because it introduces the main redneck family, Pa and his 3 sons. One of them is the extra butt of the joke, and that he's effeminate, supposed to be trans with a female name of LMA. His male name is the one Pa assigned him, and one of the contentions of the film was how funny it was to call the son the wrong name, say he was so weird and all that. This is one part that where it just doesn't age well at all. I'm not going to talk about trans stuff, but it really did disgust me. It disgusted me how this was made to be something to laugh at. Even still, the stereotype that any LGBT kind of type of character or person was a joke, not something to be taken seriously, and that was really disgusting to me. I really do feel that way. I don't know if anybody's ever worried what I might think or feel, about the transes and the gays and all that. I don't give a fuck. But at the same time too, like, you don't do that, why would you do that? That's not funny. It's like, to put it this way, oh gosh. A lot of people say, if you have to punch down, then you're not funny. And I agree. That's what I pretty much felt with that. Anyway, all of the LGBT kind of type of characters were men, of course, because of course you wouldn't find a woman in this movie being like that. But they were also effeminate gay men that were like the fruity twink stereotype, It's like, of course they have to make fun of gay men. Like, it was kind of like as if, there was no such thing as a gay woman, I guess, but whatever. But, once again, they completely missed the ball on what made something funny, especially when it comes to making jokes about a stereotype. The gay stuff felt more like a stab at that life in general, and punching down. Instead of making jokes with wit, it made jokes about it. The stereotypes in general, all throughout the movie, are not comical. It appears more like they were trying too hard. It's painful to watch the middle school type comedy in this movie, especially when it comes to the more adult elements. There's a group that, in the meantime though, there's a group that was going hiking to a meadow, I guess, where the oldest man in it went to growing up. There's banter, weird, bad jokes, an overall immemorable introduction to the non-crazy members of the movie. I really don't think that all their names were said. There was one guy I don't even remember the name of, and that's a problem on its own. None of the hikers were memorable. The ones that survived near the end basically kept yelling at each other, so that's why I remember the names of Bob, Sally, and Teresa. But they were all flat out and gray, boring characters. Nothing memorable about them. Any of them, really. Even the lone survivor at the end was boring. She didn't do much in the movie's start, and yet somehow became the main character at the end, surviving. To stay in order of the movie, chronological, however you want to put it, there was a lot of time spent on the rednecks, which made them more memorable to me. I hated them, but they stuck out in my mind. I hated how all the country folk were depicted as stupid as hell. Once again, taking the stereotype of rednecks are stupid and taking it to a whole new level of try-hard, unfunny, creepy bullshit. For example, there's this part of the movie where Ella May had to deliver the moonshine to the locals, which was also supposed to show how the zombieism spread because the moonshine was created with the nuclear barrel. If you drank the moonshine, you'd turn. So Ella May went to the house with a mom and a baby, and the baby was in the washing machine because that's apparently where they got their baths. That's just stupid, not even funny to me. Of course, later, at the end of the movie, the mama and baby were zombies. So, yes, even the baby having drank moonshine. The worst delivery was at a freelance butcher, or the butcher's house, where Ella May walks in and sees a woman gagged and bound, pleading for help on the couch, as one creepy redneck is licking his teeth, grinning at her. The butcher comes in, tells Ella to wait as he gets money, and then Ella May just stands there watching, but not doing anything. The butcher comes back with cash, is all up in Ella May's face, and the scene makes it clear that Ella's not to do or say anything. And they leave. And we never see the butcher ever again. The movie doesn't even give an epilogue as to what happened to the girl. This isn't funny to me at all. Implying she was going to get raped and murdered just wasn't funny to me. I don't know if this was to be a reference to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it was bad. Completely unfunny. Absolutely a scene that didn't age well at all. What the fuck just happened? Though I don't know if they were ever considered funny, really. If I saw this movie in 2007, I wouldn't have found it funny either. It's just fucked up. The movie shifts to the hikers who got high at night with weed. The movie uses all these dumb edits that probably seemed like wacky and zany back then, but don't exactly illustrate what getting high on weed is even like. With the edits, you'd think they dropped acid. The hikers fall asleep, of course, and wake up to find Sally and Teresa gone. Not sure what woke up Sally, but Teresa got up not long after her, then went looking for her. She's encountered by one of the zombies who only took until the second half of the movie to show. He chases her, and she stumbles into the fat redneck from the beginning of the movie who was gonna shoot the army dude. Where it was a little funny, he decided to recite the first aid handbook. It got creepy when he said to start loosening the clothes. It was very rapey. The zombie finds them, and the fat guy throws Teresa at it like a coward, and she's eaten. The fat guy goes somewhere else and stumbles upon the moonshine from the Pa and Sons. He notices the dismembered body of Sally on the ground and acts like, for a minute, that he'd fuck it. Necrophilia joke. Gross and disturbing. When the others see the dead bodies, they freak out, of course, and then bury them. Question mark there. Because thinking of it now, I don't know if they actually managed to do that, but they were going to. They not once talked about going to get help, though, and calling the cops. Didn't make sense. Bob loses his mind and starts acting very stupid. He was trying too hard, coming off as just annoying instead of a dude having a meltdown. For some reason, there's a fight, and the remaining girl goes on a rant that is just not very convincing. It felt like the rant was supposed to come off as really good acting, but it reminded me more about a high school play. It was pretty bad, especially since this was the point in time where the rednecks were basically all zombified, and it was only the hikers left. One more hiker is killed by a zombie, then the remaining hide in a mine shaft, dragging a dead zombie with them. This is where I really hated Bob. He was going all cuckoo, and then it turns out he was actually high. But once again, the acting doesn't corroborate the drug, and he's just acting like a fool. The movie edits were annoying, like some LSD thing, but Bob was like hyper, as if he was on meth or some shit. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. This is also where we find out that Bob is a pre-vet student, and they want him to do an autopsy on the zombie. Why? I seriously don't know. Like, what would that do for anything? Bob starts poking around in there, high, comes to sobriety, and then vomits once he realizes that he's touching a dead body. Then we find out the way to kill the zombies with aerosol deodorant that has aluminum because it almost instantly decays the zombie. And so they try to use deodorant to kill the zombies. It goes horribly wrong, and everyone dies. The last one was Bob, who was a complete coward and acted like a zombie, pointing at another hiker, which got them killed. But after turning his back, Bob got ate too. The last one was the girl who was so unremarkable and apparently freaking out by a tree. She then runs away after Bob is killed, and then later kills some zombies herself. As she tries to rest in the cornfield, she's surprised by the fat redneck who is now a zombie. He gets on top of her, rips her pants off, and rapes her. She stabs him in the eye with corn. Yes, a corn cob, which apparently kills him. She pulls her pants on, runs 10 feet away, then goes into the fetal position. She's then taken to the mental ward by a big creepy guy called the Tobacco Man, who I failed to mention earlier, but he appears early in the movie to give the redneck children of Pa some chew. Tobacco Man is not explained at all in any shape or way. He's just there. The movie ends where it started, in the mental ward. Even worse yet, the lone survivor ended up pregnant by the zombie that raped her. Fucking disgusting. I wouldn't recommend this movie to anyone. It's stupid, just flat out dumb. The experience isn't anywhere near funny enough to go through. None of the events even happened until the second half of the movie. The rape jokes were very weird and creepy. The gay trans people in this were just stereotyped to hell and so condescending. This was not a good movie at all. I'm surprised that there are so many people who actually like this when I looked it up online, with 4 stars even. It's bad. It's just bad to me. I think that it may have had a better reception in the past. Back when, I guess, crude humor like this was more accepted. But a lot of these things are still very terrible. The cover art is misleading too, as it doesn't even feature the woman who became the only survivor at the end of the movie. I'm not sure about the story on that one, like as if the actors were different at first, but the end result is a totally different thing. The one good thing about this movie, though, is the makeup on the zombies and gore. It was actually disgusting to look at, like real decay and grossness. But overall, don't watch this movie. It's a waste of time. 0 out of 5 zombies.